going to look at one more work by Brahms. This is the Intermezzo in C major. It's a little bit of a later work than his Intermezzo in A minor. And since they're both named Intermezzo, that should make it easier to tell me what the title is if I ask you for that on the exam. You just write Intermezzo, because you'll know that's correct either way, right? Now, when we looked at the last Intermezzo, the one in A minor, we saw the use of non-chord tones and sort of rhythmic syncopation. We saw also sort of larger left-hand textures and ranges. We also saw sort of some enharmonicism when it turned from G sharp to A flat. We saw a lot of things. So this is sort of a review of the last, when we looked at the last Intermezzo. Now on this one, we're going to see sort of some other features of Romanticism that Brahms uses. Here we go. This is our Intermezzo in C major. I would again like you to give this 2 good listens before we do this lesson. But I also want to plant something in your ear. When you're listening to it, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to be thinking that this is a continuous binary form. This is another example of an ABA. So as you're listening, see if you can figure out where our A, B, and A are in this piece. It's not the easiest thing in the world because for 2 reasons. One is there is no repeat sign. Usually when we have an ABA form, a rounded binary, we see a repeat at the end of the A, go back and play it again. This one doesn't have it. However, Brahms does do something similar to having a repeat. Then the second thing that makes it difficult is Brahms is very sneaky when the A prime comes back. You don't even notice it when it comes back because he's so good at hiding it and disguising it. All right, well anyway, having said all that, go ahead and give this 2 good listens and listen for that A, B, A prime form. See if you can find them. Well, here's the thing is, now that you've listened, I'm going to go ahead and put these up. So here is, of course, our A section. You'll notice, though, that there is a repeat of the A section, even though I told you there's no repeat sign, right? No repeat sign, but there is, in fact, a repeat. It's right here. So there's our repeat of the A section. He just repeats it out almost exactly the same as the first time. Here is our B section. You'll just have to take my word for it until we get there. And our C section is actually right here. Now, if you thought it was over here, you do get a consolation prize. Oh, why did I put C? Oh, this is A prime. Let's try that again. If you put A prime was here, you do get a consolation prize because it does look at the beginning. But check it out. Here's our melody. Bum, 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 da, da, bum, bum, bum. And here it is over here. Bum, 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 bum. Right? He actually brings it in augmentation is how we refer to that. Anytime you take an idea and then you stretch out its rhythm and you make the rhythm longer. So like maybe 8th notes become quarters, quarters become halves. We call that doing the idea in augmentation. So we've taken the A, but we're clearly back in C major here, our home key. We're back in C major with the melody. It's just that now it's all stretched out, and then here we get it in the proper version. So actually, this is where we return to the A theme, and not over here. Now I'm going to tell you another feature of this. So again, remember Brahms is a Romantic composer that still likes a lot of classical ideals and forms and things like that. Is Brahms pulls a Chopin on this one. If you remember when we did our Chopin Prelude in E minor, Chopin waited until the very, very, very end to finally give us an authentic cadence in the home key, right? We went the first zillion bars, and then we got half cadence, and then we kept going, and then finally at the very end, authentic cadence, right? Only one authentic cadence at the very end in this whole piece. We're going to see the same thing in this Brahms piece. Brahms is in C major, but he will only give us a authentic cadence in C major at the very end. He's going to make us wait that long. So there's definitely sort of a sense of this tension. Now, you listen to it, and I'm hoping that you figured out the melody is not in the soprano, or second soprano for that matter. That is not the melody. He snuck the melody into the middle of the texture in the alto part. And you remember last time me complaining about how hard it is to play left hands that have these big, huge jumps. But let me tell you, this one's even less friendly. I'm going to screw this one up royal. Here's my right hand. Here's my left hand. Oh, I can't play it. I'll go slow. That's why you should practice slowly, so then you don't screw it up. Well, anyway, there's no way I'm going to be able to play a lot of this, so please use the recording that I sent. You'll notice that we start in C major, with lots of C major, but then immediately go to E minor. We're going to see a lot of motion, harmonic motion by third in this piece. This is a foreshadowing that Brahms is going to love using motion by third. And this is another sort of element of Romanticism. Usually with classical composers, when they move to a new key, they like to move by fifth, right? Going from tonic to dominant, that kind of thing. With a composer like Brahms, he loved to move by third rather than moving by fifth, which is more of a 19th century harmonic gesture. I will tell you that it is almost impossible in the first section here, right? We have an A section, and then it gets repeated. It is really difficult to find the cadence. But I will go ahead and tell you that in this first section, it modulates from C to a new key. So what I'd like you to do is listen to just the beginning of this, from the beginning up until measure 12, and see if you can tell, A, what's the new key, right? He goes from C major to a new key, and where do we finally get a cadence in that key? So go ahead, pause this, watch the other video, listen to the other recording, and see if you can hear which key it moves to and where we get a cadence. And then when you think you've got it, come back to me. All right, so let's see how you did. The beginning's in C major. Okay, now if we take a look at measure 9, hard to find. But we get all this E, 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 A. This is our E7 chord. And then finally we get a resolution to A, And it turns out, once we hear all the right notes go to the right spots, there's a 4/3 suspension in there. It's A major. So Brahms moves from C major, and by the end of his A section, he's at A major. And where was the cadence? It was right here. There is our authentic cadence in the key of A. Now, if you couldn't find it, don't worry. There's a lot of reasons it was hard to hear. Reason one, he didn't put it on a strong beat, right? It didn't go 5-1 on the downbeat. It went 5-1 on the middle beat. Another reason, when he finally went 5-1, his right hand is still like on the same, hasn't resolved yet, right? We still have these Ds that need to work their way to C sharps. And we also have this F natural, this neighbor tone. And so it takes a while to finally get from a 5-1, and then it's buried underneath the suspension and the fact that it's not on a strong beat. But we do, in fact, get a cadence in A major. And then, how does he get from A major back to C major so quickly? Well, he does a little sleight of hand, right? We're in A major and then suddenly back to C. This is how that's going to happen. He's going to take some common tones. So here we have E, there's A, and then he adds a few more notes. So here we have this harmony, and check it out. These two notes are common tones that take us back to C major. You'll notice that this is a common tone half diminished. It's a half diminished chord that has the C and E that gets us into the new key. Let me play you these measures slowly so you can hear that C and E kind of move back into the home key. And then he does this. So it turns out that C to E was a setup the whole time. These notes right here. It's sort of like in a movie where you see the coffee stain, and then at the very end of the movie you realize she did it because she's the one who drinks the coffee. So there you have it. Here's the coffee stain. And then suddenly, Brahms uses that C and E to get us back. And we didn't even know that's what it was for, those common tones. All right, well, jumping ahead, we get essentially measures 1 through 12 is almost the exact same as 13 through 24. And we get our 5-1 in the key of A major again, just like we did before. So I guess, I don't know why he didn't use a repeat. Maybe he had a reason or he was doing something. He could have probably done a first and second ending and it would have been just fine. Now, in our B section, we are going to see this thing modulate really fast. It's going to keep moving from key to key to key. Another feature of a Romantic era composer is to be able to just not really stay in one key very long, constantly moving, gives it that sense of swimming around. So we ended in we ended in A major, and we get our tune in A major. Dum dum bum ba dum, right? Do mi fa mi do. And then suddenly, F sharp minor. very long. If we went through and tried to pick all these out, it sounds like we're moving from F sharp minor to C sharp minor, but then it doesn't really go to C sharp minor. He switches from C sharp and instead goes to D flat major. Then we get E flat minor, D flat major, F minor, A flat, F minor, and then suddenly we get this unison G. But you'll notice lots of motion by third. D flat, B flat, D flat, F, A flat, F. Then all of this sort of motion by third of the harmonies suddenly goes into lightning mode. Motion by third. G, E, C, A flat, F, D flat, B flat, G. Right? Just constantly going by third. Third, 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 third. And that's sort of another trick of Brahms. For example, if you listen to the opening of his Fourth Symphony, the entire opening melody is all thirds. He just kind of moves them around in octaves. So sometimes it sounds like sixths. Brahms loves to move by third. And then we get, if we're in the key of C, we get C, C, D flat, which is our flat 2. This is starting at measure 35. So we get back to C major, but still no authentic cadence. So we get D flat major, and then we get F minor, and he gives us plagal motion. To get back to the home key. So we've been waiting this whole time to actually hear cadence in C major. We still haven't heard them. We've heard really, really weak authentic cadences in A major, which is of course not C major. We've also heard him on like every other measure in the B section go to some new key with sharps or flats that we hadn't expected. And then finally, when we kind of are moving back to the key of C, we get D flat, and then we get F minor, like the minor 4, the borrowed 4, and then the minor 4 goes back to the 1. Now we get our theme in augmentation, dun, 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 dun. And of course the fact that it's in quarter notes makes it difficult to hear the meter. We've seen that before, right? Where Brahms does this kind of pattern that doesn't really fit the meter, the hemiola. And then we have the sort of beaming over the bar line, so we can't really tell where the beat is here. So lots more of kind of these rhythmic blurrings. We call it metric blurring. We're not really sure where strong and weak beats are. And he does that again, sort of this beaming over the bar line, and what sounds like a downbeat is really a beat 2. This is an interesting place harmonically, starting at 52. And I'm going to play you just a little bit from measure 49, and pay special attention to the bass line when we get to 52. What is the bass line doing at measure 52? What's going on with this bass line? We have F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. We have this rising chromatic bass, right? Giving it a sense of like ecstasy, right? Moving upwards, joy, jubilation as it rises and rises. If we look at these harmonies, we get some pretty interesting stuff. I went ahead and just spelled the chords out, and I'm going to tell you what his trick is. He's using all common tone diminished sevenths to get up there. Starting from the end, we end on a G major chord, but here we have A sharp fully diminished. How can A sharp fully diminished go to G major? Well, there's our common tone right here. The G in G major is there in the previous chord. And if we back up again, here we have a G sharp diminished going to F major. How does G sharp diminished go to F major? Well, there's our F, there's our F. So common tone diminished seventh to F, common tone diminished seventh to G. Here we have a 7 of F. Here we have F sharp half diminished 7. Again, there's a common tone getting us from that one to this one. You can see that he's using that common tone diminished 7 as a way to just kind of propel his music upward and keep the harmony going higher and higher and higher. So we've been waiting a long time for an authentic cadence in C major. We've been waiting a long time. We're almost there. When we get to 56, we're going to hear a dominant pedal. How long does it go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 measures. We have 11 measures of a 5 pedal. And that's a long time to hold a G. But the thing is I think Brahms really wants us to really be waiting and hoping that that G is finally going to resolve to C. So we have we're still waiting for it. And then of course we get this kid initial 6/4, 5/7, 1. There it is, the PAC in C major. Huzzah! Yeah. So similarly to the Chopin, we get this long wait from C major at the beginning to constantly going to the other keys, never really giving us a resolution in C, and now we finally get it at the end of this piece. Now I will like to point out other stuff. I dare you to listen from 56 to measure 64 and be able to tell, actually let's make it 58 to 64. You will not be able to hear where any beats are. Look at this. He doesn't give us one downbeat anywhere on all of this. It's all kind of blurred. His rhythm is all sort of, the whole thing, it just feels very free. You don't really hear the rhythm anymore because of his use of syncopation, right? All of these notes tied over bar lines, sort of this long pedal. The pedal always comes in an eighth note early, right? It doesn't come in right on a beat. And of course you again see lots and lots of left hand, jumping, the sort of bigger range in the left hand. These are all features of Brahms style of romantic composition. Well, when we finally get our C major arrival, he does give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures of one chord. Make sure that you could tell that we were actually in C major. He didn't give it to us for the whole piece and then gave us a lot at the end as like our reward for being such good listeners. Please have questions for me when we meet in person on Friday. Because I'm sure that there's stuff that I didn't teach very well on these videos, and I would love to be able to go over it more carefully with you when we meet again. Thanks.